Listen to me carefully. What I'm about to tell you in this video can free you from the prison that debt and fear have built around your life. I've seen people crushed by debt. I've seen people paralyzed by fear. I've watched talented, intelligent, hardworking people waste years of their lives because they couldn't escape the mental cage they had locked themselves into. And I've also seen people with massive debts, people who owed more than they could imagine ever repaying, transform their entire lives within 18 to 24 months. Same people, same circumstances, different approach. For over 15 years, I've worked with people on their finances, I've coached them, I've watched their patterns, I've seen what works and what doesn't. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that debt and fear are connected. They feed each other. Debt creates fear. Fear prevents action. Lack of action keeps you in debt. And the cycle continues until something breaks it. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to break that cycle. Step by step. Not theory, not motivation. Practical steps that I've seen work hundreds of times. If you watch this until the end and actually apply what I'm saying, your relationship with money and with fear will never be the same. Pay attention to this. The first thing, your goal must be bigger than your fear. Here's something I discovered that changed everything for me. Fear disappears when you have a goal that matters more than the fear itself. I'll say that again. Fear disappears when your goal is bigger than your fear. Think about this for a moment. A mother whose child is trapped under a car will lift that car. She won't think about whether she can do it. She won't analyse the weight. She won't calculate the physics. She'll lift it. Why? Because saving her child is more important than any fear, any doubt, any physical limitation her mind might create. But what happens when you don't have a goal? What happens when you're just existing, just surviving, just getting through each day? Fear takes over. Fear fills the empty space where purpose should be. Fear becomes the dominant voice because there's no other voice loud enough to drown it out. I once met a man who owed $300,000 in various debts. Credit cards, personal loans, money borrowed from family. He was paralyzed, couldn't sleep, couldn't think clearly, couldn't take any action because every action seemed pointless against such a massive number. He was drowning in fear. Do you know what changed for him? He discovered his daughter had a medical condition that would require expensive treatment over the next 5 years. Suddenly, he had a goal bigger than his fear. Suddenly, sitting paralyzed was not an option. Within 14 months, he had paid off 60% of his debt and started a side business that eventually replaced his salary. The debt didn't shrink. His goal grew larger than his fear. Ask yourself right now, what goal do you have that is bigger than your fear? Write it down. If you can't think of one, that's your first problem, not the debt, the absence of purpose. The second thing, the deficit trap is real now. I need to explain something that most people never understand. When you're in a state of deficit, whether that's financial deficit, emotional deficit, or confidence deficit, your brain operates differently. It's not just psychology, it's biology. When you're stressed about money, when you're afraid of creditors calling, when you wake up with that knot in your stomach, your brain shifts into survival mode. And survival mode is terrible for making good decisions. Survival mode is about getting through the next hour, the next day. It cannot think about next year or 5 years from now. It cannot plan. It can only react. This is the scarcity trap. And most people in debt are caught in it without even knowing. I see 3 types of people when it comes to this trap. First type, they're in debt, they're scared, and they do nothing. They avoid looking at statements. They avoid calls from creditors. They pretend the problem doesn't exist. They think ignoring it will somehow make it go away. It never does. It gets worse. Second type, they're in debt, they're scared, and they panic. They take any job, any opportunity, any scheme that promises quick money. They make desperate decisions. They often end up in more debt because desperation attracts predators who sell false solutions. Third type, they're in debt, they're scared, but they understand something crucial. They understand that they must mentally separate themselves from their past before they can create a new future. They go through what I call a rebirth. They acknowledge the debt exists. They stop running from it, but they also stop letting it define them. Do you understand the difference? The third type says, yes, I owe this money. Yes, I made mistakes. But that was the old version of me. The new version of me is building something different. They leave the guilt behind. They leave the shame behind. They keep only the lesson and the responsibility. This mental rebirth is not optional. If you're carrying shame, guilt, and self-hatred about your debt, you cannot escape it. Those emotions will sabotage every effort you make. You must forgive yourself first, not to excuse bad decisions, to free yourself to make better ones. The third thing, stop giving loans to others. I need to say something that might upset some people. If you're in debt yourself, you have no business giving loans to others. None. Zero. I know this sounds harsh. I know our culture teaches generosity. I know you want to help your family, your friends, people you care about. But listen to me carefully. When you give loans while you're in debt, you're not being generous. You're being irresponsible. You're prioritizing other people's problems over your own stability. And you're often enabling behavior that keeps those people dependent. Here's what I've observed over many years. When you give someone a loan, 3 things usually happen. First possibility, they pay you back late or not at all, and you lose the money plus the relationship becomes awkward. Second possibility, they pay you back, but now they see you as a source of loans. They come back, again and again. You've become their personal bank and they've lost the motivation to solve their own problems. Third possibility, the rare case where they pay you back, remain grateful, and never ask again. This happens maybe 10% of the time. Is that risk worth it when you have your own debts to pay? Here's what I recommend instead. If you want to help someone you care about, give them a small gift, an amount you can afford to lose completely. Tell them, this is not a loan, this is a gift. You don't owe me anything. If you can't afford to give it as a gift, you can't afford to give it at all. And regarding your own debts, take complete responsibility. Don't blame the economy. Don't blame your employer. Don't blame your family. Even if external factors contributed, blaming them keeps you powerless. Responsibility equals power. When you say, I created this situation, you're also saying, I can uncreate it. The fourth thing, understand where fear actually comes from. Fear is not something you're born with. Babies are not afraid of public speaking. Babies are not afraid of failure. Babies are not afraid of rejection. These fears are learned. They're installed. They come from experiences, from things people told you, from moments where you felt pain and your brain decided to avoid similar situations forever. This means fear can be unlearned. I used to be terrified of sales calls. Absolutely terrified. My heart would race. My hands would shake. I would avoid picking up the phone for hours, finding any excuse not to dial. Where did this fear come from? One bad experience when I was 23 years old. A customer shouted at me, humiliated me, made me feel worthless. That single experience created a fear that controlled me for years. When you're in debt, fear multiplies. You're afraid of the phone ringing because it might be a creditor. You're afraid of checking your mail because it might be a bill. You're afraid of looking at your bank account because you might see a number you can't face. You're afraid of talking to your spouse or family about money because it might cause conflict. And underneath all of this specific fear is a deeper fear, the fear that you're not capable, the fear that you don't have what it takes, the fear that you'll never escape. This deep fear is the real enemy, not the debt, the belief that you cannot overcome it. Here's what I learned. This deep fear comes from low self-esteem, and self-esteem is not fixed. It can be built, like a muscle, through specific actions. The fifth thing, building your resourceful state. If you're operating from a depleted state, an exhausted state, a defeated state, you cannot make good decisions. You cannot take bold action. You cannot persist through obstacles. You need to build what I call your resourceful state. This is the state where you have energy, clarity, and confidence, where you feel capable of tackling problems instead of hiding from them. How do you build this state? Through daily practices that most people dismiss as irrelevant to their financial problems. They're not irrelevant. They're essential. First, physical exercise. I don't care if it's a walk, a gym session, or 20 push-ups in your living room. Move your body every single day. When you exercise, your brain chemistry changes, stress hormones decrease, confidence hormones increase. You literally become a different person biochemically, a person who can face problems instead of running from them. Second, reading and learning, not entertainment, learning. Read books about money, about business, about psychology, about success. Listen to podcasts that teach you something. Watch videos that expand your thinking. When you learn, you grow. When you grow, you become more capable. When you become more capable, your self-esteem increases naturally. Third, writing down your goals every single day, not once, every day. The same goals, over and over. This practice rewires your brain. It keeps your destination clear when daily chaos tries to confuse you. It reminds you why you're doing what you're doing. Fourth, tracking your achievements. Most people only track their failures. They remember every mistake, every setback, every embarrassment. Start tracking wins, even small ones. Today I didn't buy coffee and saved $3. Track it. Today I made one extra sales call. Track it. Today I read for 30 minutes. Track it. This builds evidence that you are capable of positive action. Evidence your brain can use against the voice that says you can't do anything right. Fifth, hobbies and enjoyable activities. This sounds counterintuitive. If you're in debt, shouldn't you be working all the time? No. Burnout is real. Depletion is real. You need activities that restore your energy, not just drain it. A hobby you enjoy for an hour costs nothing or very little, and gives you energy to work harder for the remaining hours. Do you understand? Your mental state is not separate from your financial state. They are connected. Build one and you build the other. The sixth thing, financial discipline is non-negotiable. Now let's talk about the practical side, the systems, the numbers. If you don't know exactly where your money goes, you cannot control it. Most people in debt have no idea how much they spend. They think they know. They're usually wrong by 20 to 40%. I've seen it hundreds of times. Someone says, I spend about $2,000 a month. We track it carefully for 30 days. It's $3,000. Where did the extra $1,000 go? Small purchases, forgotten subscriptions, convenience spending, things that seemed insignificant in the moment but added up to a massive leak. Here's what you must do. Track every single expense for 1 month. Every coffee, every snack, every online purchase, everything. Write it down or use an app. At the end of the month, categorize everything. See the real numbers, then create a budget. Not a wish, a budget. A fixed amount for each category that you will not exceed. And here's the critical part. Any surplus, any money left over from your income after necessary expenses, goes to debt repayment. Not to lifestyle improvement, not to treating yourself, to debt repayment. I see people who say they can't pay off debt, but they're eating out 3 times a week. I see people who say they have no money, but they're buying new clothes every month. I'm not saying you must live in misery, I'm saying you must live in reality. Debt is a fire. You don't buy decorations while your house is burning. You put out the fire first. At the same time, don't swing to the other extreme. Don't live in such extreme scarcity that you snap and binge spend. Find the middle, comfortable but disciplined, controlled but not punishing. The seventh thing, use debt as your fuel. Here's something that will change how you see your situation. Debt can be the greatest motivator of your life. I've seen people transform because of debt, not despite it, because of it. When you have no pressure, you have no urgency. When you have no urgency, you have no growth. Comfortable people rarely evolve. They don't need to. But someone with debt, they have a fire under them. They have a reason to develop skills they would never develop otherwise. They have motivation to work harder than they ever would without the pressure. I know a woman who owed $50,000. She had a regular office job paying modest salary. She could barely cover minimum payments. What did she do? She learned sales. She got a commission-based side job. Terrifying at first, uncomfortable, outside her personality, but she learned. And within 2 years, her side income exceeded her main job. The debt forced her to develop a skill that made her wealthy. This is the reframe you need. Debt is not just a burden, it's a teacher. It's showing you that your current income is not enough. It's pushing you to become more valuable. It's demanding that you grow. Ask yourself, what skill could I develop that would increase my income? What could I learn that the market would pay for? Sales, coding, design, marketing, writing, negotiation, speaking, management. There are skills that multiply your earning potential. Debt is telling you, learn one of them, now. The eighth thing, focus on earning more. There's a limit to how much you can cut expenses. There's no limit to how much you can earn. Most people in debt focus entirely on spending less. They clip coupons, they cancel subscriptions, they turn off the heat. These things help, but they have a ceiling. Earning more has no ceiling. This is where you should invest your energy, not just surviving on less. Building the ability to produce more. Every hour you spend learning a valuable skill, every effort you make to become better at your profession, every risk you take to grow your income, these are investments that pay returns forever. I recommend this approach. Whatever your current income, whatever your minimum debt payments, aim to earn 3 times your minimum obligations. If you owe $500 a month minimum, aim to earn $1,500 surplus. This gives you breathing room. It gives you options. It gives you the ability to accelerate repayment while still living. But here's the key, this doesn't happen automatically. You must actively pursue income growth, ask for raises, change jobs if necessary, start side projects, develop skills that command higher pay. Debt repayment is not just about cutting, it's about building. The 9th thing, borrow responsibly or don't borrow at all. If you're already in debt, this section is for when you get out. And you will get out if you follow these principles. Never borrow again without a clear plan and reliable income to repay. Never. Credit is a tool, like a chainsaw. In skilled hands, it's useful. In unskilled hands, it destroys. Many people ask me about borrowing to start a business. Here's my position. Don't start a business with borrowed money unless several conditions are met. First, you've tested the idea with your own money or minimal resources. You know there's demand. Second, the market exists. You're not guessing. You have evidence that people will pay. Third, you have a team or partners. You're not doing everything alone. Fourth, you can manage the risk. If the business fails, you won't be destroyed. If these conditions aren't met, don't borrow. Work, save, test small, grow organically. I've seen too many people take loans for business ideas that were never validated. They end up with debt plus a failed business. Double disaster. And if you want to reduce risk further, consider partnerships. Sharing the burden with someone who shares the vision. Not giving away your idea, sharing the load, consciously, with clear agreements. This can cut your risk dramatically while keeping your upside. The 10th thing, create value to escape debt permanently. What pain points do millions of people have? What problems exist that you could solve? What skills do you have that could become products? What knowledge do you have that others would pay to learn? You don't need to build a massive corporation. Even a small side business that solves a real problem can transform your financial life. A consultant who helps people with a specific problem, a creator who teaches a specific skill, a service provider who relieves a specific burden. The question is not whether opportunities exist. They do, everywhere. The question is whether you'll develop the skills and take the action to capture them. The 11th thing, stop complaining. Immediately, I need to be direct with you about something. Every minute you spend complaining about your debt is a minute wasted. Every conversation where you blame circumstances, blame others, blame the economy, blame your past, is a conversation that keeps you stuck. I know people who have been complaining about the same debt for 10 years. 10 years. They could have paid it off 5 times over if they had channeled that complaining energy into productive action. Here is the truth. Your debt is your responsibility. Period. Even if someone cheated you, even if you were unlucky, even if circumstances were unfair, it is still your responsibility now, because you are the only one who will fix it. Accepting full responsibility is not about blame, it's about power. When you accept responsibility, you accept the power to change things. When you blame externally, you give away that power. Today, right now, make this decision. I will not complain about my debt anymore. I will not blame anyone or anything. I will focus entirely on solutions, on actions, on progress. Write it down, say it out loud, make it real. The 12th thing, the practical steps that actually work. Let me give you the concrete actions, step by step. Step 1, calculate your exact debt. Every loan, every credit card, every personal debt. Write down the total. This is your enemy. Know it precisely. Step 2, track all expenses for 30 days. Every single purchase. Categorize at the end. See where money actually goes versus where you think it goes. Step 3. Create a strict budget. Cut everything that isn't essential. Redirect the savings to debt repayment. Step 4. Identify one skill you can develop that will increase your income. Start learning it today, not tomorrow. Today. Books, courses, practice, whatever it takes. Step 5. Find ways to earn extra income while you learn the new skill. Over time, side jobs, freelancing, selling things you don't need. Every extra dollar goes to debt. Step 6. Pay yourself first. Even with debt, save a small percentage. This builds financial intelligence and creates a safety buffer that prevents new debt when emergencies happen. Step 7. Use the debt as motivation. Remind yourself every day, this debt is pushing me to become someone I would never become without it. Step 8. Build your resourceful state daily. Exercise, learn, write goals, track wins, restore energy. Step 9. Review weekly. What worked, what didn't. Adjust, improve, never stop optimizing. These steps work. I've seen them work. They'll work for you if you actually do them. The final point, transformation, is a daily decision. I want you to understand something important as we finish. Escaping debt and fear is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. Every day you wake up, you choose. You choose to be the old version of yourself, the scared version, the victim version, or you choose to be the new version, the disciplined version, the powerful version. Fear and debt are signals. They're telling you something needs to change. Don't run from the signals. Listen to them. Let them push you toward the person you're supposed to become. Your goals must be bigger than your fear. Your discipline must be stronger than your impulses. Your growth must outpace your problems. This is not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. It requires daily effort, daily choices, daily recommitment. But here's what I know for certain. If you apply what I've told you today, your life will change. Not overnight, but steadily, predictably, inevitably. The math works, the psychology works, the system works. The question is not whether this approach can free you from debt and fear. The question is whether you will actually apply it, whether you will do the uncomfortable things, whether you will persist when it's hard, whether you will choose your goal over your fear every single day. Write in the comments what you understood from this video. Write what action you will take today, not tomorrow, today. Share this with someone who is struggling with debt, someone who needs to hear this. Maybe this video is what finally breaks their cycle. Maybe you are the person who changes someone's life by sending them this link. And remember this, if you weren't born into a wealthy family can start with you. Your debt is not your destiny. Your fear is not your identity. They are temporary circumstances that will change when you change.